Okay, so what I've done recently is I've gone and soldered through a bunch of pins to terminal blocks that you would normally find inside a PC. These terminal blocks are used for connecting things like your USB or your speaker sets. So I've used these things and recycled them for this purpose. I decided to do the video rather on OBS because I less if I stare at myself. So the good news is once I've done the soldering, I tested the system running RetroPie, and after running RetroPie I noticed that all the buttons and things work with the use of one of the apps within RetroPie. So you can actually test the buttons and assign them, and all the buttons work because of that. So directions and buttons all work, so I know that the soldering is at least done correctly. With that in mind, I'll just open up the shell so that you guys can take a look as well. I think this camera might actually do a better job, so I'm just going to take it off and see if I can zoom around. So this cable is not too long, but it'll hopefully get the job done. This was originally a Salabi stick. It was used for PS2, and I replaced the original controller with one that has micro switches in. The buttons are the same. I didn't want to go and use new parts for everything. I basically wanted this project to be a big recycling event. So underneath this now I've got the Pi set up, and you can see all my wires are what I would call neatly soldered to those blocks I was talking about. So I don't know if they'll be very visible here, but you can kind of see them there. So I've gone and soldered those things together. I don't know if I can zoom in a bit nicer. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I've gone and put a little bit of insulation around them, some shrink tubing, and then I've set up the soldering specifically so that we have 3 sets of soldering pins. The 4 if you consider that the stick is one of them. So there'll be 4 buttons connected to a ground and their own inputs for 2 of these terminal blocks. One of the terminal blocks is just for start and select, and it's connected to its own ground. So you'll see the 3 pins that are connected together there. They're just 1 ground and 2 pins for start and select. And fortunately the stick itself was already connected, so I didn't even have to bother soldering pins for the stick. I just popped it on one of these terminal blocks and popped that terminal block onto the GPIO pins. So it's all pretty neat and it works, and the only thing sticking out of this case is actually just the HDMI cable, which is great. Obviously everything's not quite so neat now. I still have to put things together, and I may actually still decide to do some artwork on the outside of this case. I might actually just leave it like this because I kind of like the very shiny look of the thing, to be honest. So yeah, update completed.